Alright, so last week I have a few questions. I hope you guys have attended that question. Yes, discuss. So I asked volunteers to come and present the answers. Yes. Anyone can clear this question? No. Any volunteers? No one. How will you learn? So tomorrow, the last day they are having exams. This subject, about 18. So one of the question I have included that very. Right. So the same type of question will come, but as I mentioned, you are not using those verbs, right? Why, what, discuss. So what questions I'm not asking, basically discuss and elaborate, or likewise, right? So I just read the question. You have recently joined the board of directors at TechWave, the company, a rapid growing technological company. During a board meeting, you notice some concerning practices regarding the company's decision-making process and overall governance structure. The CEO has the dominant influence over the board, and there is a lack of transparency in financial reporting. Additionally, the company has not been actively engaged with its stakeholders or addressing their concerns. There are few concerns are there in the board. So based on those concerns, so they are asking, given the situation, answer the following question. Why is corporate governance important for the company practice? Or let's say, particularly for the companies. What's the import for corporate governance? Yes, we have discussed. So what are the imports of corporate governance? Why we need to have corporate governance? Yes. Can you remember? Yes. And that's definition for corporate from asking the imports. Last week, I have not discussed it purposely. Right? Last slide. Yeah, right? Imports of corporate governance. So what are the imports of corporate governance? Yes, sir, the answer to slide है बोलो. Like अनिवार्य exam में क्या question है, right? Because we are going to learn the corporate governance before learning the corporate governance, we need to know why we are learning. What's the importance of learning this corporate governance? This is a definite question in the exam paper. Right? And now look at me what I right? It's a big exam paper question. So I had to benefit corporate governance together. Important rule that degree करने के लिए बोला ना लेकिन corporate governance रहेगा corporate governance रहेगा hey so what are the importance yes in Olympics yes ini no kita juga tu ada ni ada juga so basically the first reason is as he correctly mentioned right what I told you there is a credibility gap between the shareholders and the shareholders and the management right so management and shareholders they have credibility the shareholders so ඉස්සාද කරන්නේ management එක ඒගොල්ලෝගේ ඕන කමල මේක කරනවා management එක සමහරට ඒගොල්ලෝගේ desire කරනවා වැඩ so the credibility gap so the credibility gap so because of this credibility gap as he mentioned some abuses can be happen for the apples for the money of the shareholders so corporate governance ensure that right so those kind of things can be overcome through the corporate governance right so the credibility of the shareholders will be increased because if I become good corporate governance in a company right then what are the things attack करते हैं right और like company के वाले करने नहीं सब हमें attack करते हैं बोला ना corporate governance के रटे पालने हरियर दिया ना वो थोड़ी विश्वास है ना रटा होता तक गया ही है ये अभी तो कंपनी की गवर्नेंस पालने हरियर वेनो की वो विश्वास है दिया ना तो ऐसा तो आगे साल लेवल तो ये लोग उधर तो आगे किसी हरियर के so that is one of the parts of corporate governance. Yes, any other thing? That means prevent from the frauds, basically. Right. Yes, any other thing? Yes, another reason, another point of we have discussed three types of fraud that people can do. You can remember last week. Right? Before right? Basically, three types of fraud we can do as a misappropriation. Yes. Bribery and corruption. And financial statement frauds. So if you are having a good corporate governance, so we can prevent, but we can mitigate some kind of level. We can mitigate those kind of frauds. Right? Yes. company එක යහපාලනයක් තිබ්බා good governance එකක් තිබ්බා මොනවා කියන වාක් report company එක හොඳට පාලනය කරනවා. Yes, what are the problems? Yes. So here the case study also saying that they don't have the transparency, right? And the accountability also not there. So if you are having a good corporate governance, that means definitely according to corporate governance concept we have discussed, we need to ensure that the transparency needs to be there. Right? So if you are having a good corporate governance, transparency and the accountability will be increased. Right? Any other than that? So we can keep from the case study itself, we can take some. So they are telling that they don't have a kind of a shareholder engagement, right? Not being actively engaged with shareholders, right? So if you have a good corporate governance, that the shareholders also engage with your company, right? You are getting the shareholders' views to the company. That means addressing the shareholders' views is definitely needed. Otherwise, let's say I'm investing in a company, I'm expecting that company is to get this kind of profit. But that company is not achieving that, what will happen? Then later I will withdraw my money. So then what will happen to the company? If the company don't have money, they can't survive. So definitely you need to listen to shareholders. You need to address the shareholders if they engage the shareholders. So having a good corporate governance means you need to engage the shareholders. Right. Yes. All right. So the second question, I will give you the answers, right? So I will just discuss the answers, then I will give you the answers, detailed answers. What potential risk could arise from the current governance practice at this company? What potential risks? What kind of risks they are having? Yes. What they are doing? They are having some concerns, right, regarding the company's decision-making process and overall governance structure. The CEO has a dominant influence over the board. That means sometimes the CEO will be a chairman of the board because he is having a dominant power. The Lanka, that's not good. Right? That's not good. It's a breaching of corporate governance principle. It's like the chairman and the CEO. Why? The finance minister is managing all the money in the company. And who is the president? President is the chairman of the board. Right? Chairman of the cabinet. So something goes wrong with the finance minister, what will happen? They are reporting to the chairman. Who is the chairman? The finance minister. Right? So that is not good. That's being the corporate governance because the management, the lead of the management, that means CEO, having a dominant power, that means you don't have the corporate governance structure, corporate governance principle established in the market. The CEO can company can manage the company can assets manage the like that. He's the lead of the management. So who is the chairman of the board? Chairman of the board. The lead of the representative of the shareholders. So if these two people are the same people, what will happen? Definitely that CEO is having a dominant power. Right? He definitely can influence the board. CEO don't give the money, company can decisions. That dominant power again. Right? So that is a one issue here. Right? And also there is a lack of transparency in the financial report. What do you mean by lack of transparency? Or the lack of transparency? Financial statements. Yes. Because the lack of transparency. What do you mean by lack of transparency? So when you are reporting in the financial statement, you are reporting something in the financial statement, you need to say how it's come. For example, you are reporting 10,000 the revenue. Right? So you need to show how this 10,000 is come. So you need to have a kind of transparency. If you are doing something, you need to have transparency. Right? For example, when you come your assignment marks, right? So if you issue the assignment marks with the component, so now you know what kind of marks you are getting for this component. So then you can question the lecturer, what happened to this and what happened to this. Right? I want to be straight out doing, I want to make it out doing. So that transparency needs to be there. Right? So that's why the information kind of act is passed. So through then again, it's part of the part. Like the local tone. What are the yellow paper in the one puro? I need to watch it. That's your. So what are the potential risks here because of these issues? What are risks? The first risk, the first issue is CEO is having a dominant power. So what kind of risk you are having for your company? Yes. Loss of investors' confidence. Yes, that's correct. That's because the CEO is having a dominant power. That means CEO making the whole business. Is having a power. That means confidence level of the shareholders will be decreased. Right. That's a kind of knowledge, right? Um, that is not that's a disobligation, right? Yeah. Yeah. So another potential risk. What you mean by potential risk? Actually, the potential risk is future risk. Right? තාම වෙලා නැහැ. මේවා හිතා වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියනවා. දැන් තමයි ඉන්වෙස්ටර් එක කන්ෆිඩන්ස් එක නැති වෙනවා. කම්පැනි එකට තියෙන වෙන්න පුළුවන් අවුල්ම වැඩි තමයි ඒක. right? ඉන්වෙස්ටර් එක කන්ෆිඩන්ස් එක නැති වෙනවා. right? ඒකෙත් තමයි මොකද උනේ? මිනිස්සු අරගෙන කරලා ඇරුවේ. ඇයි ඒ වුනේ? Because the shareholders confidence not there. So definitely they will push you. Right? Because we know if you want to run a business, we need to have money. Right? So if the investors are not investing on your company, definitely your company can't survive. So that happened to the, as I mentioned before, in the last week Enron. Such a big company, but suddenly it's bankrupt. Why? Investors are taking off the money. That happened to the Colombo bank in Srilanka. That happened to ETI. People are asking money because they lose the confidence. That's the worst thing that can be happen because of the corporate governance issue. That's a potential risk that you are having. One of the potential risks, the big one. Yes. Any other issues? Yes. Then into reputation. Reputation risk is there. Right? That's the second part. So if you are losing your reputation, what will happen? What will happen? Reputation, customers not coming to you, stakeholders, right? Basically, they are not coming to you. Like what happened to Sri Lanka? Right? Sri Lanka is the best example of corporate governance. Because you don't have a corporate governance in Sri Lanka as a country. Right? So what happened to Sri Lanka? පිටරට මිනිස්සුන්ලා අපිට ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න නැහැ. ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ ඇයි? රෙපියුටේෂන් නැහැ නේද? ඉන්න කොහොම right? මොකක් හරි ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන ආව ගමන් 150 කිලෝ. අදත් වල යනවා කොමිස්ටේ. There's no corporate that there's no costs. Therefore people are not coming. There's a reputation එකක් තියෙනවා. 110 කියලා reputation එකක් මිනිස්සුන්ගේ 110 මිනිස්සු. Right? So if you want to pass something, so you need to do 10%. So reputation is yes, correct. Yes. Other than that, any other potential risks? You can have a fraud risk, right? Because you don't have a good corporate, that means you don't have a transparency in your financial statement. Definitely there will be a fraud risk, right? Fraud risk. Definitely there is a potential risk that people will or the management will present the wrong numbers in the financial statement. Right? Potential to have a financial statement frauds. The kind of risk, very big risk. Even though you are not performing, but you are showing you are performing well. So what happens? The investors are investing in your company. Then after previous time, company collapse. So investors lose their money. That's a kind of a big risk. The overall separate UGC approved of strategic level, where our put them. Right? They don't want to get larger. They approved it. We just approved it. Right. So those are the kind of beliefs we can have. Right. The third point, discuss the key principles of corporate governance and how they can be applied to improve the situation at this company. So what are the principles we can follow? So we have learned that. What's the first one? If you can remember. Fairness. Right? So you need to basically fairness means you need to address the desires of all stakeholders or shareholders. හැමෝගෙම views අපි address කරනවා. කියන්නේ හැමෝම කියනවා පිළිගන්න කියලා නෙමෙයි. but we need to address them. Fairness, balance කරනවා. Then transparency needs to be there. Right? Transparency needs to be there. And accountability. Yes, accountability. And also you are having a responsibility. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Independence. Yes. You need to maintain the independence. I'm not going to repeat the same thing again because I have discussed that. Right? How can I get right? Independent. Right? You need to have independent people in the company. Yes. So that's that. What? Integrity. Integrity. Right? Integrity. Yes. Shareholder engagement. Right? Shareholder engagement. So those are the principles we have discussed. So that would be a second question in your exam paper. Right? So definitely I have to ask the report from the corporate governance. Then I need to ask the principles of corporate governance to overcome this. Right? So this type of question will be coming, right? So I will give you a case study and I'm asking the first question. Definitely should be the importance of corporate governance. Right? The government of the chart and take it no predict exam paper. The bakery quality of corporate governance will import me from 100 to 100. Or make it how the may of the paper get the that level, right? Still the rule. Right? It was a case study here risks from right. Then I got no, it is super I used to go over governance principles. Right. 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 So I'm knowing this fourth one and I'm going to the fifth one. How can engaging with shareholders and other stakeholders contribute to the company's long-term success? Someone here no question here. So you have to write some examples which you have gathered from your annual reports. Like how the shareholders engagement or stakeholders engagement will contribute to the long-term success of the company. How you can? Yes. Stakeholders with shareholders. So how they contribute to the long-term success of the company. So when you're answering, because you don't have, I know you don't have the experience with the company, right? But you can analyze the country, right? Then one running a solo Russia. Lanka, the shareholders, Lanka, as well as the contribution against the long-term contribution. Lanka. Company in our country. So what we can do? Yes. One is you can encourage the long-term investment, right? Because if people are investing only, we can develop. Right. We need to encourage investment. We need to increase the investment from the investments. So because you don't have money, you can't develop. Right? So that is one. Yes. Other than that, how the stakeholders can come into this? How they are. Okay, yes. One way is you can address the concern in the government, right? Like stakeholder, including the employee also. So the employees also can address some concern in the government. So if there's a some kind of concern in the past there and the dominant power, so you can address these concerns. So you can contribute to the long-term success of the government. Right? Yes. Other than that, from this side, my idea. I can't give reduce and external pressure. Thanks. Reduce the tax. Yes, good. The stakeholders can, like government, right? For example, in Sri Lanka, so as I mentioned in last week, most of the companies are SMEs, small and medium enterprises. SMEs can report here anyway. They've got the high revenue group, bigger semi company. Lanka got the SMEs. So Lanka got the Lanka economy depend on SMEs. So because of that, they have given a kind of a the tax rate is reduced for the 40% in the quota Viraj version. Right. So they have reduced it to the 40%. But suddenly because of some issues in the country, so they are going up to 30%. So every company now they have to pay 30% flat rate. Every company. Right. So there is a concern, a kind of concern for the SMEs. So because of that, the hydroelectric group closed their business. Right? Because they can't do the business. Right? Or the ලාභයෙන් 100ක් ටැක්ස් ගෙවනකොට කලින් 100ක් review. Right? Or then දෙන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඉස්සරහට යන උදව් කරනවා. ගවර්න්මන්ට් එකට ඒ වගේ දෙන්න පුළුවන්. ගවර්න්මන්ට් එක එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කරන්නේ නැහැ. වෙනවා ස්ටාර් ගවර්න්මන්ට්ස් companies. Have you heard about star gowns? Yes. Anyone work there? So there's a company called Star Gowns. It's a government company. It's a big company, right? What they are doing is they are providing garments to the big brands, Nike, Adidas. They are working on Nike and maybe particular Nike other than Lanka. But they are doing only brand. Star Gowns is the only Nike, Adidas, so about it. And it's so a brand, brand color, rebrand color, no way. And I don't know. So the government is going to be export tax holiday. Tax holiday. Tax holiday again. What do you mean by tax holiday? Tax holiday. But it is tax holidays. So they are given certain period as a holiday, like a holiday. Certain period, let's say 5 years. Certain period of time they are giving it as a tax holiday. For example, 5 years time. So that in that 5 years time you don't want to pay tax. Right? You don't want to pay tax. So in that five years time you can develop your company. So they can charge high level of tax. So they are given some period to survive in the market. So they only people have to pay tax. So that you mean by tax only. So most of the exports companies, like if you are starting export company, you can ask for the tax holiday. If you are having exports only, we are having the reverse. That's why government will actually helping to the export companies. Because they want dollars. So according to the central bank report, the recently published, they are supposed to get 18 billion reserves, 18 billion reserves in next 2 years. Now we only have 5.1 billion USD reserves. Right? අපේ කලින් තිබ්බේ බිලියන 600ක් පෙට්‍රල් නැතු පෙට්‍රල් නැවක් කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය බිලියන 50ක් දිගෝ ඒක පෙට්‍රල් නැවක් කියන්නේ පෙට්‍රල් නැව 10ක් වෙනවා කොහොමද සල්ලි ඒක තමයි උනේ රිසර්ව් කරනවා රිසර්ව් දැනුමක් නේ අපිට ඉස්සරහට මූව් කරන්න වෙනවා නිකන් සිම්බාබ්වේ වගේ වෙනවා සිම්බාබ්වේ මොකද කරන්නේ Zimbabwe पांच मीडिया करने में आराम नहीं है मिलकर करोड़ साल और कुछ साल नहीं बहुत रन ठीक है लंका और पैसा तो वहाँ है तमिलना आज ये मिलकर इतना देर को because of the so I'm coming to one of the IMF. So what do you mean by IMF? Yes, IMF. Jantan Chile or Arbudia, right? So when it comes to this IMF, right? So coming to different aspects. So when it comes to this IMF, so we are a member country of IMF. We are a member country of IMF. So therefore, definitely IMF need to help us. So because we are paying a kind of a membership fee to them. Right? So when you are looking at the IMF, the objective. So their objective, one of the objective is the main objective. If their member country is having a kind of financial difficulty, they need to help you. Right? They will help them. They need to help you. So what happened in Sri Lanka is actually Sri Lanka is having kind of financial presidency. Right? Yes. Right. Lanka financially problem ini. Betul tak? IMF pe kami ambil tu yang mana non net. Right. IMF pe kami udah orang non. That's their responsibility. Right. So what IMF is giving us is the kind of conditions. So we are giving you money, but you need to have a plan to recover that. That's what they are doing. Right. So we are giving 10,000 USD. So you need to have a recovery plan. The member country itu kan salary itu kami ambil deh. So mereka recover kan nanti mereka plan nanti. Mereka itu support macam itu. Itu orang itu baru mereka recover kan pulang. So that's why the high level of taxes will be there. Like I told you, high income tax kami very good. Lanka में ले सिर्फ साल यूज़ करके पूरा दिया तो income tax. So that's why the income tax rate is high. Right? Income tax rate is high. So what the politician are saying the name. So he is saying that IMF samai apni kiwe over tax again kahani. It's not correct. That's statement is not correct. Because as I told you before, the IMF is having the objective that you have. They are saying that if the member country is having a kind of financial difficulty, definitely they will come and help you. Right? So that's their objective. So what they are doing is they are giving you the money and they are asking a recovery plan from you. So the government only provides recovery plan. Right? So one of the key things they can do is they can increase the income tax. That is the easiest way. That's what they have followed. That's not Harnagarano. So we need to increase the GDP. Right. IMF is not providing the conditions. They are only asking us to provide the recovery plan. They will review the plan and they will come back to them. So IMF will not say you need to impose tax to the income tax, the general public. So that's not their concern. Their concern is how you are recovering. Right? So you have to learn these things. That's a kind of a corporate governance sort of thing in Sri Lanka. Right? So how you are dealing with the IMF. So you can read. And also recently they have published an annual report, the central bank annual report. Right? So it says the 1% income, the per capita income is goes up to 4,500 USD. It's 3,600 or something where they are in last year. It increased. Right. So these things can happen because we are not paying tax, we are not paying the loan, right? Because of the debt restructure. But suddenly there can be decrease. That's coming from the economy. When you are designing the company's corporate governance, so those kind of things also can be included. And I will corporate governance case like a covered person, make a directory or all the Arcadian after you are the world. That's why I'm telling you this. Economic factors also very important. Because we are not paying tax, we are not paying the debt, so we are per capita income is then the negative or loan එක නම් දෙනවා කියන්නේ. කියලා ලක්ෂ එකකම loan එක ගෙවන්න දෙනවා. Loan එක ගෙවන්න දෙනවා මම දෙනවා මගේ income එක ලක්ෂ 5යි. ඇත්තටම මගේ income එක ලක්ෂ 4යි. මම loan එක ගෙවන්න බෑ. ඒ වගේ. ඒකට ඒක ඉස්සරහට ලොකු impact එකක් එන්න පුළුවන්. මම කලින් කිව්වා වගේ ඕගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ නැතුවට ඉතුරු ළමෙක් දැන් සාමාන්‍ය ණයයි 1.4 million rupees. Thank you to the ළමයි. So we are the shareholders. This country, we are the owners. So the country, when the country gets debt, increase debt, so individual debt value also increase. So those things you have to learn because you are the shareholders of the country. So same thing applies to the company. So if you are investing in a company, that company is not performing accordingly, so those will be impacted to you as investors. Right? So recently we are having IPOs, right? Still the IPO is not activated, right? It's oversubscribed. IPO capital alliance, right? Oversubscribed कर दिया IPO. Oversubscribed क्यों हुआ? So they are asking, they are, as I remember, they are issuing 1.5 million shares. Right? 1.5 million to order means shares in then 1.5 million shares meaning 48 shares means only that. Oversubscribed. Because definitely people know after the IPO, share price will go up. Right. So those things you have to learn, right? We are learning the corporate governance, then we learn the risk management. Right? So how company is looking at how they are going to give the shares. Right? So they are having different methods, proportionate methods they can allocate, right? So they can use their parent company shareholding and they can allocate likewise there are different ways. So they need to look at those things based on the risk management policies which we will discuss in the 7th week. Right. Right. So this is the question. So same type of kind of a big question. The case study will be half page, right? And the same type of question will be asked. Right. So the अंतिम सदी यहाँ निकला मोना देना पास नहीं, right? मेरे को पाले प्रश्न, right? मेरा पाले प्रश्न, but अंदर पर ऐसी उत्तर लेना पूरा right? Paper का मार right? Paper की ना पड़ा, ये तभी. Right. So is there a moving on to the today's discussion? Topic number 2. the theory, right? So we are basically discussed about the introduction to corporate purpose. So now we need to learn about the theories, right? So how we are going to apply these theories to the practical scenarios, right? So theories in the sense this in this level, right? You don't want to purely rely on the theories. So what you can do is you can use the theories and you can apply your practical experience, practical knowledge, and you need to work with the application. That's what the expectation of the in this level, right? So theoretical aspects of the corporate governance, topic number 2. Right. So what are the theories when it comes to corporate governance? Any idea? What kind of theories we can have when it comes to corporate? One of the famous theories is agency theory, right? Right. What do you mean by agency theory? Agency. I'm asking the agency theory. Higher is trying to convince first. Agency theory in the I'm asking what the meaning of higher the agency is. Yes, agency theory. The one theory. Yes. And say the best word is conflict, right? The conflict of interest between the conflict of interest between whom? Shareholders and the management.
Management.
Yes, thank you. Good. Conflict of interest between shareholders and the management. There are online guys are there, right? Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Right. So the agency theory, right? A significant work of corporate governance has built up within the context of the principal agent framework, which has developed by Jason and McQueen. So this is the beginning of the agency theory, right? The agency theory can concept I will be an example at the high. Right. Then after the theory of build කරන්න බෑ නිකන්. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉවරද නිකන් ගෙදර ඉන්නවා නැත්නම් ඉන්නවා කල්පනා කරනවා මෙන්න මෙන්න theory එකක් තියෙනවා. Right. What theory එකක් දානවා මෙන්න මෙන්න. You can't do that, right? So you need to research it, right? So you need to prove it. So this kind of concerns are there, right? So otherwise you can't say make it all money theory, right? One other theory you don't make, so you can't say you need to research all that, right? So in 1976, firstly they have came with this the agency theory. So when it comes to agency theory, so we need to look at the agency relationship, right? So agency relationship is a contract under which one or more person, the principals engage another person, the agent, to perform some services on their behalf that involves delegated some decision making authority to the agent, right? So this agency theory not only apply to the companies, but also any other areas where the agent and the principal is there, right? Agent and the principal is there, right? Like later, like ගෙදර අම්මා සල්ලි දීලා වඩ ගිහලා කටේ ගිහලා පාන් ගෙඩිය කියන්නේ. ඒක කවුද ප්‍රින්සිපල්? අම්මා ප්‍රින්සිපල්. දැන් අම්මා මොකද කියන්නේ? ඔයාගේ ඒජන්ට් කෙනෙක් විදිහට දානවා පාන් ගෙඩියක් කරන්නේ. කොහොම ස්පෙસિෆික් වර්ඩ්ස්. right? දැන් ඔයාගේ මොකක්ද ඉන්න සෝවා පාන් කන්න කැමති නැහැ. right? අම්මා කැමති පාන් කන්න. ඔයා කන්න කැමති මොකක්ද? ඔයා කන්න කැමති ඩොල්ෆි පොතුවක්. right? මොකද කරන්නේ? මං කියලා නේද ඩොල්ෆි පොතුව. ඔයා කියලා නේද ඩොල්ෆි පොතුව. දැන් මොකද? දැන් you will opinions. right? මේක කල්පෙලිකට විතරක් ඇප්ලයි වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ජීවිතේ ඕන දෙයක් ඇප්ලයි වෙන්න පුළුවන් this agency. here. If there is a, so we can say if there is any situation where the agency relationship is there, the agency theory can be applied. Right. If you are having any agency relationship in a situation, you can apply the agency theory. Right. So that the agency relationship is there is a principle, right? There is a principle, and the principle will allocate this work or its power or delegate its power to someone else. We call it as agent to perform a specific job, to perform a specific service, right? So that we call it as agency relationship. Is it clear? Is it clear? Right? So in the agency theory, definitely you need to have a principle and the agent. So in the, when it comes to companies, we are actually discussing about corporates, right? In this subject, we are discussing about the corporates. Okay, so when it comes to companies, the principle will be shareholders. Principal will be shareholders and the agent will be management. Right. Management. Right. Clear? Right. So now, what kind of responsibilities the agent is having? Agent has a responsibility for. What are the responsibilities of the agent? One is accountability. The agent is answerable under the contract to their principals and must account for the resources of their principals and the money they have gained work on their principals' behalf. Right. So they need to be accountable. Right. They need to be accountable. But answerable under the contract. Then if the mother is asking from you, go is the salary, go month to the salary, go bank. Right. So you have to answer. Right. Right. You have to answer. Right. Answerable under the contract. Contract you want to do. That's your contract. So you have to answer any question the principal is asking about this contract. Same thing applies to the company. So if the investors are investing in a company, right, and they are, let's say, as investor, my intention is to get high level of profit, right? So I'm investing money, and then I'm asking from the management what happened to my money. So let's say I'm expecting 10% for my investment, but company is only providing 8% as a dividend. Then I can ask what happened to other 2%. Right from there, by our performance, right? So answerable under the contract to their principals and must account for the resources, right, of their principals and money they have gained working on their principals. Yeah. Principal के साली को डब बनाने के लिए कोई resources को डब बनाने के लिए सहा principal के अपने मनो benefit क्या हम में ना अभी में performance है, right? So we need to account for those money as well. So if you are getting a salary, you are accountable for that salary. Right? So here I am performing the lecturing, right? So I am getting a pay for that. Right? Let's say I am getting 100,000 or 10,000. Let's say 100,000 in there. 100. So let's say I am getting a 30,000 for one lecture, right? So that's it. So that 30,000 I am accountable. I'm accountable. Right. Right. And as an agent, you are having a duty of care and trust. Now, what is the goal? Or circle and I don't know where they are. Hey, I keep the right. I'm trust them. This was right. Duty of care. Right. Duty of care and trust. Which one person or entity owes to another, it can be legal or ethical obligation. Right. It can be legal and ethical. Right. Legally, they have given you the power. Right. As we learn, according to 2007 number 7 Software Act, the shareholders can't be involved in the management. if they want to involve in the management, you need to be there as a board member. So legally, you are having the duty to perform as a manager. Right. And also, you have an ethical concern. Right? Ethical concern that you have. Salary garno, right? Salary garno, so you have to perform that. Right? Right? You have to perform that. Then the performance. The agent who agrees to act as an agent for you has a contract obligation to perform the agreed task. Like a good task, but responsibility, contractual obligations is there. An unpaid agent is not bound to carry out the agreed duties. Any agent may refuse to perform an illegal acts. Municipal के हम देख कर होना है illegal मोहन या कि नॉन करना है लेकिन वहाँ refuse करना ऐसे ही चलो. But if you are getting some payments, if you are getting some money from the principal, so you need to perform that task if it is not illegal. Right? If it is not illegal, that the corporate governance or keyword data, the salary do not be anywhere to perform the agent responsibility gila, here in the regular being part. Right. So principal is giving you a contract. Right. To show some contract. According to the corporate governance we have learned, so we have to perform the responsibility. Right. Therefore, we are going to perform it. Right. So it says you can refuse to perform illegal act. If the principal is telling you to do an illegal act, you can refuse according to the corporate governance codes. Right. The agent must act strictly in accordance with their principal's instructions, provided that these are lawful and reasonable. Even if they believe disobedient to be in their principal's best interest, they may not be disobeying instructions. Right. Shareholders and principals are getting on management. Right. Are given subject to illegal acts. So you need to obey with the decisions which is made by the shareholders or the board members. Right. Sometimes the principals can be the board members. Because if there's an agency relationship, the agency will be applied. Some board member management guy, right? Bottom level top management guy, principal agent in the board. Board members and the top management can be principal agent. Because top management will provide you the strategic direction. So as a management, you have to follow it. Yes, part of the management is the board members. Sometimes based on the management, we can divide into two, no? The board members and the top level management. The board members, what they are doing, they are giving you the strategic directions, right, to the company. So what is the top management role? So they need to follow me. They are also the agency program calculators. Right. Then skill. A paid agent undertakes to maintain the standards of skill and care to be expected of a person in their profession. As the agent, you need to have the proper skill. Right? That's your responsibility. For example, you are become a child accountant in next 2 years. Right? Yeah, you can know. Right? Out taking child accountant, they can get some other actually good. Right? So let's say if you have become a child accountant and you are asked to do a let's say you are asked to join as CEO of the Bogle company that comes here this last week. Right. Where you know chartered accountant is not CL that. Chartered accountant no no sakit itu naik. Untuk balik apa pun naik. Chartered accountant no. That's a prestigious qualification. The qualification dia ada Lanka di top level qualification. Dia kan puluhan kan yang දැනටත් ඉඳන් අවුරුදු ගානක් ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් එකේ 1950 ගණන් ඉන්නේ මෙම්බර්ස්ලා දැන් යන්නේ 9000ක්. මෙම්බර්ස් 9000 ගණන් තමයි ඒ කාලේ විතර දැන් තමයි පොඩ වැඩිපුර පාස් ගන්න ඉස්සර 20යි 30යි ඉවල් කරලා 5යි 10යි දැන් පාස් දැන් නම් ටිකක් වැඩිපුර පාස් කරනවා. ඒක අදහස් ගානේ හරි. ඉස්කෝට් එක ඉවලා 4000ක් විතර මැරිලා. දාරු දෙලා මැරිලා. එළවෙනවා. ඒක 5000ක් ඒකේ 5000ක් ඒකේ 3000ක් විතර රටේ. ලංකාවේ ඉන්න මම දන්නේ 1500ක් වගේ ලංකාවේ. චාලරේ කොහොමද? Kalau di government kan udah mulai, iya, mana boleh, but once you get the qualified as chartered accountant, don't think like you can do everything. You can't, right? You can't do because you need expertise in some areas. Right? Some are working in the consolidation, some are working in the financial instruments, right? Some are working in sustainability, right? So, for example, let us come with Bogle graphite Lanka. So you need to know the SLFR 6. No one heard about the SLFR 6, right? So there is a special standard for the mining industry in the standard book. Right? Really, it will tested in the chartered exams. Extended and already it was not tested standard. Yeah, it's allowed half in. So you need to have that knowledge to go there, perform the job and CFO in that company. Because if you don't know about the SLFR 6, how you are going to work as CFO? Even though you are chartered, you can become a chartered accountant without SLFR 6. So therefore, you need to have that skill. You need to have that skill. Now, Doctor saying, the doctor is more than doctor. Again, you know, this year, I'm just going to do the for you. So, I make a doctor again. I make a doctor. University got to the department. I had a department, you know, I'm a department. Right. I make a department. Why? Doctor Nagla having a grand bed. The doctor Lagila, Bobby Pagan. You need to have that experience. You need to have that knowledge. Right? He'll telling that see the Galagania, but I'm also you need to have that skill. You need to have that skill. So if you become a chartered accountant someday, so when you are getting that job, right? So you need to have that skill and the game. Right? That is your responsibility. As an agent, you need to ensure that you are having that skill with you before going to that job. You are going to perform that job. Right. Personal performance. The agent is reachable, selected because of their personal qualities and also the duty to perform their task themselves and not to delegate it to another. But they may delegate it to a few special circumstances if the delegation is necessary. Such a solicitor acting for a client would be obliged to instruct a stockbroker to buy or sell a listed security on a stock exchange. So, because in a lot of the responsibility of principal dealer, right? So you have to perform that job. Right? You have to perform that job. Unless otherwise, in a few special circumstances. Right? Our without delegate no. Very eminently. Why you working around delegate? Right? So when we are doing the paper marking, so I have to do the paper marking. Then what time we have papers for us. What I can do, I have 10 temporary lecturers in my department. What I can do? So if I want to look at 10 papers, I can divide 100 papers, I can divide 10 to these temporary lecturers and ask them to mark. Right. It's not good. Right. So I'm reaching our responsibilities. We can do it, but it's meeting our responsibilities. Right. But some situations where, so when you are going to invest in a company, right? ඒගොල්ලෝ කිව්වාගේ බිස්නස් කරලා බලන්න කම්පැනි. රුපියල් 3000 කියලා දාලා බලන්න. ඒකට දාලා බලන්න කොහොමද කියලා ඉගෙන ගන්න. So that's one of the learning outcome. Right. So what you can do is you can open a CSC account, right? With a stock broker. Right? There are stock brokers, there are different stock brokers. So you can ask them, we are going to invest this much of money. So they will, if you are going, they are having kind of limits. So if you are going beyond that limit, they will provide that course for the digital fund. So you can invest to the digital fund also. Right? So what they will do is they are allocating an agent to you. So now you are the principal. Right? The stock broking company, you are the agent. So what you can do is you can call to that agent and tell him that you need to buy these shares. I have deposited the money to your account. That means stock broker companies, there is an account. So what you can do is you can deposit the money and you can ask from the stock broker, buy or sell the securities or the shares. Right. So now what we are doing, we are delegating our power. Right. So this is also the agency relationship with building. Right. Right. There is no conflict of interest. Right. That's what we are expecting from the management as investors. No conflict of interest. The agent owes to their principal a duty not to put themselves in a situation where their own interests conflict with those of the principals. For example, they must not sell their own property to the principal, even if the sales is at a fair price. Right. Right. Conflict of interest නැති වෙන තරම තමයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. No conflict of interest. මේක හරි අමාරු දෙයක්. Right. Conflict of interest එක නැතුව වැඩ කරන්න හරි අමාරුයි. Yeah. අපේ ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි. Right. But when it comes to corporate law, the big issue we are having is a conflict of interest. Like conflict of interest එක නැත්නම් එතන අපේ corporate law සෝනේ නැහැ. Interest other conflict that have. But we issue they are looking at their own interests. We have one monocular topic. It's the normal way. Right? So the conflict of interest, if you can work without conflict of interest, it's a kind of a good thing. Right? And the confidence. The agent must keep in confidence what they know of their principals of theirs even after the agent's relationship with ceases. Very important. Right? So sometimes let's say KFC, right? So you are working as a board member for KFC. Right? So what will happen is suddenly they will you know the recipe of the KFC chicken is made. Right. So suddenly there is a kind of conflict is there between the management and the shareholders. Company can well, GST company. Because you know the recipe. Right. That's not good. It's breaching your responsibility as an agent. So you need to protect everything. Where you are having any kind of affairs with the principal, you are having any kind of knowledge about the company. So those things you need to keep in confidence. Even this is very important. After the agent's relationship has ceased. Relationship the agent's relationship you need to keep it confidence. Very current time. Right? Any benefits? Any benefit must be handed over to the principal unless they agree that the agency may retain it. Although an agent is entitled to their agreed remuneration, they must account to principal for any other benefits. If they accept from the other party any commission or rewards as an inducement to make the contract with him, it is considered to be a bribe and contract is fraudulent. Right. Benefits ganti principals dan benefits ගන්නවා ඊට අමතරව මොනවා හරි ඔයගොල්ලෝ special situation එකකදී මොනවා හරි work එකක් perform කරන්න third party එකක් ඔයගොල්ලොන්ට මොනවාද දුන්නොත් we consider it as a right to produce. For example, the ministry is asking 10% to build a highway from the construct. Right. So kind of a ministry is getting a salary from the government. Other than that, he's asking 10%. It's a right. Right. The same thing applies to the company. The company, let's say CEO is saying that, so I will put your tender in the tender box. Right. So I ask removing other tenders for that you have to pay me 100,000. So that's a right. You are reaching the agency responsibilities. Right. So these are the responsibilities of the agent. Right. So type of agency relationship. As I told you, there are agency relationship. So what do you mean by agency relationship? Yes, one who's keeping the hand. Don't talk, I can hear. So type of agency relationship. In an organization, there are three types of agency relationships. So these apply for the organization. As I mentioned before, this can be coming in any kind of situation where agency relationship is arise. Right? Shareholders, directors, manager relationship. Right? One way we can have agency relationship. Shareholders and audit relationship. How the shareholders and audit like a relationship? How it comes? Shareholders like auditors like other relationship like this one. Again, in a relationship, business relationship, right? The auditor and again, some other CEO boy. So boys like a husband, like a monkey. So we have done auditing Union Nationals for Union National audit. I have done for 3 years. After completing third year, the CFO and our audit senior got married. Right. Now they are in Dubai. Likewise. I audit කරන්න ගියාම Union National audit කරන්න ගියාම තමයි අවුරුද්දේ සාමාන්‍ය මාස 7ක් විතර ඔඩිට් කරනවා අවුරුද්ද පාස් කරලා මාස 7ක් විතර උදේ 8ට පටන් ගන්නවා පාන්දර 3යි උදේ 8ට පටන් ගන්නවා පාන්දර 3යි ඒක උදේ හැමදාම දකින්නේ අර දෙන්නම වැඩිපුර එංගෙත් දෙන්න අන්තිමට අවුරුදු 3ක් යද්දී පරි කරගත්තා ඒ රිලේෂන්ෂිප් එකේ කොහොමද shareholders and auditors ලා අතර රිලේෂන්ෂිප් එක yes how yes yes outspeed why we need to have a auditors relationship with the shareholders. So when it comes to the auditors, right? So why we need to have auditor? We have discussed this. Right. You have told them the kind of right? So we are having here we are having shareholders. Right. Here we are having board of directors or the management. Right. So here we can have management. So when it comes to this, right? So there is a kind of a credibility gap between the shareholders and the board of directors and the management. So how they are overcome this credibility gap to shareholders? Using an independent third party. So who are the independent third party? The auditors. Right. So auditors is having a responsibility to give some independent opinion about the company's financial statements. Right. Not only financial statement, if the shareholder asks something else, they also can review that. Normally they are doing the financial statement review. සමහරවිට shareholder කියන අපිට මේ asset එක verify කරලා දෙන්න. ඒකට ඒව කරන්නත් ඕනේ. So what the audit is doing is they are reducing the credibility gap of the shareholders. So therefore we need to have a responsibility between the relationship between the shareholder and the auditor. Like shareholder and just auditor. And the directors and the manager. That means board of directors and the management, as I told you before. Board of directors are deciding the strategic direction. While the acknowledgement of board of directors are decided. For example, if you want to launch a new product, so that decision will be coming from the board of directors. You need to have the approval from the board of directors. So the only management can perform it. Right. So there will be a director manager relationship with them. So those are the type of agency relationships we are having in our four projects. Right. The first one, the shareholder, director or the manager relationship. So these are very common one. Make them very common. Like corporate governance will be concern shareholders like manager the directors relationship. So how they are having a kind of relationship. Agency is a significant issue in the company limited by shares as a form of business organization because of the separation of the ownership of the company. Right. So this agency issue is very big in the public limited companies. Right. Why? Because ownership is separated. Right. Now, over the car, right. Well, I live in a car. Have a car in Patagonia. Right. We are going to the car. Right. We are found the last in the car. So therefore, there's the agency problem is there because what is the main reason? Separation of the ownership of the company. So as we learned, the 2007 number 7 Companies Act, shareholders can't become management. They can't involve in the management as shareholders. So if they want to involve in the management, definitely they will to they are in the board. Right. So the separation of the ownership of the company from its management. The owners, the shareholders can be seen as a principal, the management of the company as agents. Right. Although the ordinary shareholders, equity shareholders with the equity shareholders. Who are the equity shareholders? Equity shareholders. Basically, the owners of the company. Right. Equity. Are the owners of the company to whom the board of directors is accountable. Right. The actual power of the shareholders tend to be restricted. They normally have no rights to inspect the books of accounts and their forecasts of the future prospects are leaked from the annual reports and accounts. Such brokers, journals, and daily newspapers. Now, company can cut those there. Right? Our company can shareholder getting a Samani matter company get a lister go up with annual report. Right? Hello, a limitation. Agency problem at the end of the head. As an investor, as a shareholder, I need to know what happened in my company. It is my company. If I let's say I'm only 10 shares, but I'm owner of that company. So I need to know what happened in that company. But normally what happens here is they normally have no rights to inspect the books of the accounts. The shareholders කියලා බෑ මම UK national එකේ මට shares තියෙනවා. මට ඕනේ accounts බලන්න. කියලා මම CFO එකෙන් අහනවා. මට shares 10යි තියෙන්නේ. So you can't do it. Right. So there is one issue that agency problem is arise. Because we don't have the right to access the books. Access the information. We are getting the information through the annual report or the journals or the newspapers. The negative newspaper කියන selling कोई पता कर लेंगे तो तब मंदन ने और ये शायद तीनों बड़ा शायद तीनों मारम केस से क्या बोल रहे हैं पंद्रह तब देने का समाज जनाधिपति की बात करें ना even though he is in the management, he don't know. The leader of the management, no? He don't know. They company no yada if the shareholders know normally, they go like the annual report. And also when it comes to the annual report also, right? For example, when it comes to the December 31st annual report, we are receiving after 3 months of time. Right. March 2018 months now annual report है. ये तो दो month है December को को दिला दी. Shareholder देखा था नहीं. The day-to-day running of the company is the responsibility of the directors and other managers to prove the directors delegate, not the shareholders. For these reasons, therefore, there is a potential for conflict of interest between the management and the shareholders. Right? So definitely the agency theory, agency problem is there. Why? Because of these reasons. Right? So in your examination, if the examiner asks, what are the reasons to have the agency problem in the company? So these are the reasons. So why? The main reason is the separation of the ownership. Right? Separation of the ownership. Because of this separation of ownership, you can't access the information as a principal. As well as when it comes to the responsibilities, the director is having the responsibilities to manage the day-to-day activities. Right? They are managing the day-to-day activities. We don't know what happens in the company. For example, they are going to launch a new product. They are not asking from the shareholders. So if you are having a board approval, you can launch a new product. Right. Product का नाम कौन फेल है? Product का नाम कौन फेल है? So then happen to promo का bank. Right. Promo bank मोल एक लोगो interest rate take का fixed deposit product है आता है. That's kind of product. Even though simple it's a product. So both they don't take care of them because of that issue. They fail. Right. So it happened because of the interest difference between the shareholders and directors. As a shareholder in a risk taker can spend the day. So I'm not a risk taker. So my view is my company should follow risk averse. Right. But directors are doing. They are risk takers. They are going to take high risk. So what will happen? They are repeatedly a conflict of interest. Right. So these are the reasons why the conflict of interest is arise in the company. This is actually we can't avoid. Right. But we need to have a kind of a mitigation plan for these things. Conflict of interest is avoid to avoid, but right. So that's why we need to have a good corporate governance. Right. That's why we need to have a good corporate. If the management working according to the corporate governance principle, this conflict of interest will be reduced to some level, some acceptable level. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Shall we have a break? Any questions up to now? All okay. Right. All right. So let's have 2 minutes of break. Now, game 5. Right? So when you are doing the group, I will give you additional 5 minutes to wait, right? Don't worry. So when you are doing the group assignment, I need 5 groups to do the presentations. Right? So there are two options. One is I can allocate the groups. So other than you can allocate your own groups. If you have your own group, you can go with that. But make sure only the maximum members can be there only 6 or 7. 6 or 7, right? 7. We don't have the 5 members like another. The person cannot go type here. 7 members like you, so only type manage for the column. What are the options? I want allocate the level to allocate the level. So in the education program, we have discussed why we are in the education program. So these are the two main reasons why we are in the education program. Right? Or why we are in the conflict of interest between the management and the staff. The first one is the agent may not act in the best interest of the principal. Right. So that is the first reason. Right. That is why the agency purpose is there. Agent they are on in the no young principal in one the principal decides also the example simple example. Right. So that's the first reason. The agent may not act in the best interest of the principal, or the agent may act only partially in the best interest of the principal. Partially, but it may arise the topic. There can be number of dimensions to this included complete objective between the objectives between the agent and the principal. So we will discuss this in the examples. The agent not taking appropriate risk in pursuance of the principal's interest because he or she, the agent, view those risks as not being appropriate. Right. I will come to these examples, these points with the examples in the next slide. Right. So this is the first reason why we have a conflict of interest. The second reason is problem of information asymmetry. What do you mean by that? Yes, what do you mean by that? We have discussed because management is having more information about the company. They are the close information. But when it comes to shareholders, as I mentioned, sometimes we are releasing the information through the annual report, sometimes through the newspapers. Right? Sometimes through the journals. So therefore, there is a difference between the level of information you are having. For the shareholders, sometimes the level of information is very low. But for the management, they have know everything in the company. So because of these things also, this reason also, the agency problem will be arise. So these are the two reasons why we have a conflict of interest. Right? One is you are not, as an agent, you are not act according to the principle. Right? The second one is the availability of the information, the level of availability of the information. Right? So these are the two reasons. So let's look at this example. The first one is the conflict of interest. So basically, the conflict of interest is an example of conflict of objective is called empire building. Right? We call it as empire building. The conflict of interest comparing at the empire building. Right? It's when the management gives for new acquisition for growth stage, even though it does not increase shareholders' value, just because its compensation is related to the size of the business. What that means? So normally, what is the objective of the shareholders? Shareholders objective. What is the objective of shareholders? Maximizing the wealth. Right? So if I'm investing in a company, I'm expecting a kind of a profit. So that means not maximizing my wealth. Right? More than wealth, I'm looking at wealth, maximizing the wealth. But when it comes to management, right? When it comes to board of directors, what they are looking at is they are going to build the company. Company expand. My objective as an investor is to get the more profit. But the company secretary is to expand the business, build the business. So now there's a conflict of interest because the shareholder is looking at the increasing its value. But the management is looking at building the company or expanding the company. Right. Right. So after expanding the company, so few years time only we are getting the benefits. It will take some time after the expansion. But it is not my intention as investor. So there will be a conflict of interest. Right. So most of the companies have a conflict of interest because of this. Because they are using the money for expand the business. But the investors are looking at their own wealth. Their own wealth. They will get wealth long term, but short term, they will get wealth. The management they will not pay expand. Right. The risk tolerance. Right. The risk tolerance is that some agent principal Level of risk tolerance. For example, when the management remuneration lies too much on the company stock and options. Company gets stocks quite easily, option price take remuneration will depend on that. So if I am the CEO of the company, so my remuneration is depend on the company's stock price. The stock price goes up, then my remuneration also goes up. Right? So then what I do? The manager may be willing to take too much of risk to increase the stock price. So as an investor, that is my intention. My intention is to maximize the wealth. Right? Maximize the wealth. So if you want to maximize the wealth, what we have to, obviously we need to take a risk. Right? If the management is having the management remuneration is only based on the stock price, they are going to take the risk because after taking the risk, they are getting a return. The return increase only, their remuneration also increase. The next factor is when the management remuneration lies too little on the company stocks. Company stock here, one of the company remuneration is but last day, company stock value at demand. Like they, as a management, what I'm doing, I'm not looking at the companies. Like I'm not going to take a risk, high risk, our risk, average, because I need to keep my company, the stability needs to be there. Right? Company remuneration. So I'm looking at only the strategies to stabilize the company. Stability. Right? This may conflict with the shareholders decide for high risk and high profit. Right? So as you are getting a remuneration which is not like, let's say, it's too little on the company stocks and the options. So what I am doing is I need to protect my company for the long term. I'm looking at all the stability. Right? I am going to span my business off. Like I need to keep it the same as there for next 5 or 10 years. So then what I'm doing is I'm not taking much risk as a management. But when it comes to shareholders won't care. Right? So there will be a conflict of interest maybe because of the risk tolerance level. Right. Then the level of information. Right? If the shareholders have unequal access to the information, they find it difficult to access the true performance of the agent hired to act in their best interest. Moreover, in the case of poor performance, it is more difficult to vote it out. Right? That is a kind of a limitation, right? So as shareholders, we don't know anything about the company sometimes. What happens in the company, we don't know. What kind of decisions they are taking, we don't know. Because we are only know these things to the annual report or the some kind of a market officials of communication tool by the company. Right? Then the current situation is shareholders. Right? So therefore, after you do the right? As shareholders, we can't go with that. So that may arise the conflict of interest. Sometimes it's not according to our interest. But it's happened because we don't have much information. The level of information, the second reason. Some kind of companies will have a high level of asymmetric information. Some companies include, for example, high-tech companies due to the complexity of their products or companies' financial reporting practices are not transparent. Some other companies, they can hear very companies, like the information technology companies. So how they are making the product, how they are making it as a profitable product, how they are selling. Like for example, Microsoft. Yeah.
So it's not scary invested in what they
Sorry. Online guys, we can hear your personal chat. Guys, please unmute. Sorry, mute. Can you hear me? It's okay. Corporate council is okay. Right. All right, so yeah, in the can you hear me?
copy Colombo. මේක හරි මේකම කරලා දෙන්නේ. මේ පින් එක ඔක්කොම ගහලා ඉවරයි. කොහොමද කියන්නේ? අවුට්පුට් එක දෙන්න.
ඒක හරි වෙලා මේ පාඩම
Mr. Lavranatna, don't like guy. So we are discussing about corporate, not output. Right. Okay, I'll tell you know that I have so many experience. They are working online. Right. So the level of information, right? If the shareholders have unequal access to the information, they find difficult to access the true performance, right? That's we have discussed. So some are companies, like the complex companies, like I have discussed about Microsoft, right? So when it comes to Microsoft license, the Microsoft license is issued in Srilanka by Tech Fund. Even also Tech Fund private limited. The software company, right? Yes, keep open from there. Tech Fund Srilanka private limited. So what they are doing is they are getting the license from the Microsoft. Then they are issuing the license to the local companies. Right. So when they are having a such kind of business, they are having a different pricing strategies. Right. Because already the global price is available in the website. So we can't, so as an agent, but they are giving us a kind of a lower price. So we have to sell it to the local customers. So we have to provide the services after sales services and the warranty period. So everything you need to record it in the financials. Right. So it's the product is purely based on we can't see the product. No product is there, but only the license is there. Right. So when you are going to report those things, it's very difficult to do sometimes. Like take a license there, but some other license, some other license. But it will right to return the block. Because it's a 50. Right. So how we are going to report it? Because it's an intangible thing. Right. So those sort of complex situations are there when it's not the financial report. So therefore, sometimes as a shareholders, we don't know what happened. We don't know, we don't have the required knowledge. What is happening there? Right. So therefore, because of that, the conflict of interest can be arise. For example, it is on the mining industry, right? So sometimes we don't know what happened there. We don't know how to report it. Right. Work in progress. Go to the inventory. Work in progress. Work in progress. Get a go mine. Mine. I told the Haragan at the Pagati. Do I miss security? He doesn't look in the level. The other one upgrade on the way, they go to our stock account. So we report current. ඒක මොනින් ඉස්සෙල් හොයාගත්ත එක උඩට යන්නේ අපේ ඵලෙන්නේ. Very complex situations. දැන් උදාහරණයක් ගත්තොත් අපි තව example එකක් තමයි එක issue එකක් තියෙනවා. දැන් never tell කියන never. Right. tell කියන never. The result එක තියෙනවා. tell කියන. මම යා ගන්නවා ඊපස්සේ ඒ ඉස්සර වෙනවා. යා ගන්නවා. කතා කරන්න ඕන එක විදිහට කතා කරන්න. So okay. Totally okay. නැත්නම් ඉස්සර. ඉස්සර එක කියනවා tell කියන ඉස්සර එක. ඉස්සර එක. දැන් වඩා ලොකු එකක්. වාහනේ ඉන්න. ඒතකොට දැන් සාමාන්‍ය ඉස්සර එකක් ගෙද්දි ඉස්සර එක බැලන්ස් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඉස්සර එක බැලන්ස් කරනවා. බැලන්ස් කරන්න ඒගොල්ලෝ යූස් කරනවා tell level එක. ඒ tell level එක හැම වෙලේම තියෙනවා. රෝල තියෙන level එක. ඒ level එකට තෝ නම් ගිලෙනවා. දැන් මේ level එක තියෙනවා. So is it the inventory of the PP or the inventory of the PP of the result of the result company? That's the problem. So normally the oil will be inventory. The level they are maintaining to balance the result. Oil level is the inventory of PP. Normally the oil is inventory. So the level they are keeping the result to maintain or balance the result is the PP or the inventory. So such kind of a complex situation can be there. Right? So what's the answer? It's not electric operator. Yeah. Including to the result value ratio, the oil value. So consider the BP. Right? Right? Because without that, they can't use themselves. Right? I mean, you can the PV का कोई इंटरचेंज करना पड़ेगा क्या? हो जाए? लेकिन यूज करना तो बंद हो गया. Right. इधर ये वाली complex situations पे थी समानवाद shareholders का धन्य पद company की वैल्यू. So they are more complete of interest categories. Right? The level of information you are. So mainly the agency problem happen in a corporate because of two reasons. The first one is what? That's what? Agent is not act according to the shareholders or the principals. The second one is the level of information the shareholders have. So when it comes to the first one, the shareholders is not act according to the agent is not act according to the shareholders. How it's happened? Because of the risk tolerance level. Risk tolerance level. And next one. Because management is looking at the building the empire. Right? They are looking at the company's building, but they are not looking at the objective of the shareholder. Shareholder's objective is to maximize the wealth. The management of objective is to build the company. Right? Therefore, because of those reasons, the conflict of interest or the agency problem will arise. Right. Then, what do you mean by agency cost? What do you mean by agency cost? Because in a company, we are having agency problem. So if we are having an agency problem, we need to resolve it. So therefore, we have to spend how much? Or we have to spend some effort. We have to give some effort. That is coming under the agency cost. Right? That we call it as agency cost. To resolve the agency problem, we have to incur some costs. Right? The business. If you are having a conflict of interest or if you are having an agency problem. Right? So we have to give some mechanisms. We need to give some processors. We need to have some processors, the mechanism. So it will cost to the company. So that cost which is arise because of the agency problem, we call it as agency cost, right? For example, cost of study, the company's data and research, purchase of expert analysis. For example, sometimes as I mentioned before, there's a complex situation in the business. So as shareholders, you can appoint an expert to analyze. For example, so that company is having a low case. That company is having a low case. So if this low case get going worse, that will impact the company and kind of a bad man. So as a shareholder, we can appoint a good lawyer to analyze the situation and tell us what can be happen in future. Right. So to do that, we have to spend money. Right. And external auditors fee, definitely because of the information issue, the level of information you are having and the conflict of interest and the credibility gap, we need to involve the auditors to get the independent view or independent opinion. For example, when it comes to commercial bank, they are spending, I think, for a year for the annual audit only, I think 300 million or something, right? For the annual audit or overall annual audit, right? And when it comes to the star governments, when you are doing that star governments, it will take 20 million or something for the annual audit. So much of money they are spending, right? Because of this conflict of interest. So you are having a diagnosing and enforcing directors' contracts, time spending, attending the company's meeting, right? So you have to attend the company's meeting and see whether what happens there, right? Time again only attended, right? So also cost of direct innovation on the company's affairs. So you need to look at what happened in the company. So you have to spend time. Something is not going correct, you can go and see what happened. Implementing performance measurements to monitor the managers. So you can implement the KPI, so you have to analyze the KPI, right? You need to place the managers in a different level of KPI. So you have to do some activities to interview them, right? Evaluate the performance, right? It will make some cost to you. So these costs, we call it as agency cost. The cost is related to if there's any kind of agency problem. So to resolve that for a certain level, if you are incurring any cost, that cost we call it as agency cost. Right. So in addition to the agency cost, and it defines to an alignment of interest in following ways. So basically, a company, so we are trying to reduce agency cost as much as we can because it's agency cost is impact with the shareholders. Well, like they are shareholding them again. So therefore, what we can do is we can align the interest of both parties. And that's what they want. Okay, partner, I can be solving both. Align Colombo. Solving both partners. Right. So we can align the interest for some level, right? Profit related economic value added pay or bonus related to the size of the profit or economic value added. So then what the company is mostly doing, right? So companies are providing the bonuses. The bonus then over to other minutes, right? Because shareholders needs to know you are aligned with their desires. Their desire is to maximize the wealth. Right? So if they are paying you a bonus, right, based on the performance, that means you are aligned somewhat with their interest. Right? Bonus then performance again. Profit level. Profit again or shareholder again. Well, shareholder again. Unbending ready either 40% portion over bonus. So you are aligned with the shareholders' interest. The interests are now telling you are looking at the high level of profit or high level of salary. The other side, the shareholder is looking at the profit, maximize their wealth. Now you have a kind of a alignment. So one strategy is profit related to economic value added pay, or we can say bonus in a simple term. Like mostly the companies are doing this. Rewarding managers with shares. That's another way, right? Shares then managers. Company ownership then body. Like me on Canada strategies, right? Company shares in a million active, 1 million shares are there in the company. So we are shooting 100 shares to the company shareholders. So now what will happen? You feel like you also the owner of the company. Where the company owner in a product, so where company owner because your interest also there. That's a one strategy. If you have become a board member or if you have become owner of the company, you can follow these things. Rewarding the managers with the shares. Sometimes there are two options. Right? We can provide the option. We can provide the shares without charging any cents. Right? We are giving it a free of charge. Sometimes with some kind of a lower value than the market value. Right? But we can give as a reward to the managers. This might be done where a private company goes public and managers are invited to subscribe for shares in the company at an attractive offer price. In a management buyout or by that I call in purchase of the business by new managers, the former by existing managers become joint owners. Right? Like there's a concept called management buyout and buying. Right? So that the simple meaning is the company managing it. One company will become. Not that company. There is a management buyout. Right? Right. So company manager can buy the company because we have the information. Right? Sometimes these things happen. Company being the CFO, company will once the company is going for the public offering, so they will buy. Executive share option plan. In the share option scheme, selected employees are given a number of shares options, each of which give the holder the right after a certain date to subscribe for shares in the company at a fixed price. The value of an option will be increased if the company is successful and its share price goes up. Are we fixed price shares then? So again, what the benefit that can go on, what company can profitability can get on. So now share price is the benefit. Fixed price share කියලා මේකට certain period of time එකක් දෙනවා. කියලා amount pay or shares දෙනවා. So if the share price goes up, you can get the benefit. So the managers are working hard to maximize the wealth of the company. So they only they can have the benefit. Right. Right. So these are some strategies you can follow. So why corporate governance is important? So these are the things we have discussed here. It's a kind of a short-term solutions. Short-term solution that we can resolve the agency cost or we can say resolve the agency problem at a certain level. But the long-term answer is, or the long-term way which we can answer to the problem is, the agency problem is the corporate governance. Right? So if you are having a good corporate governance, if you have a good corporate governance structure in your company, that's the best way to answer the agency problem. Right? Because we have discussed in the agency, when we are discussing about the corporate governance, we are discussing about the principles of the corporate governance. So if you are following those principles, right? So you can mitigate the agency cost or agency problem or agency theory into certain level. So this is the long-term answer. Or we can say this is the best answer for resolve the agency problem at a certain level. I'm always saying the certain level. Right? We can't totally ignore the agency cost. Right? Totally we can't parallel and where agency problem. But we need to try to find a way to mitigate to a certain level, the acceptable level, the tolerance level. Because it goes beyond to the tolerance level, then company can't be collapsed. Right. So in the long-term answer, if the market mechanisms and the shareholder activities are not enough to monitor, there's some form of regulations such as corporate governance codes are needed to manage the agency problem. Corporate governance framework aims to ensure the directors' management fulfill their responsibilities, right? Because in the corporate governance we are discussing. So these are the manager's responsibilities, these are the directors' responsibilities. This is how you need to behave. Right? These are the things you need to go with. The codes are there. Right? By requiring disclosures and suggesting they be rewarded on the basis of performance. There are a number of corporate governance codes of conduct and recommendations issued by the governments and the stock exchange. For example, in Sri Lanka, we have the CSC listing rules. I will upload it to the LMS or CSC listing rules. So there are certain listing rules are there, right? So from that, they are trying to reduce the agency cost. Agency cost. They are saying we need to have two people in the board as the board chairman and the CEO. Likewise, different listing rules are there. Otherwise, you can't list in the Colombo Stock Exchange. Right? If you are not going with the listing rules. Right? So those listing rules are also very important. Better to go with that, then you can write that. When I write it down, you can write these listing rules. Right? And in the sense, when it is not governed by the law, the fear of damage to the reputation arises from the governor's weakness and the threats of delisting from stock exchange renders it difficult to not to comply. Then because of them, corporate governance codes can it's not regulated, it's not a law. Right? So if you are breaching the law only, you can give a punishment. Right? Law breach the punishments. So we say because violating only punishments of the good of violence. Right? The law can be present. So all the time. So if someone can do whatever you want. So without if there is no punishment, then people do whatever they want. So corporate law is not a law, right? It's only a code, right? But when it's not the listing rules, right? The corporate is very fear because if you are not following the listing rules, it's not mandatory to follow. But if you want to list in the Colombo Stock Exchange and if you want to keep the listing in the Colombo Stock Exchange, definitely you need to follow this listing rules. So if you are not following the listing rules, what will happen? You will delist from the CSC, the Colombo Stock Exchange. Or else you can't list it in the Colombo Stock Exchange. Right. So because of that only, people are moving. Right. Even though it's not a law, even though it's not a law. Right. So that is why the corporate governance is very important to address the agency problem. This is a long-term solution for the agency problem. Right. Agency problem. Maybe in the short term, our strategies is follow around. We are having corporate governance, so we can do. If you have an agency program, you can do these things. Right? You can provide the rewards. You can have a profit-related, value-added pay, right? Stocks, right? So that's about the shareholders and the management relationship. So now we are coming to the second one. So we have discussed three relationships when it comes to corporates. Agency relationship. The second one is a direct and manager relationship. So how it's happened? So shareholders are appointing the directors, right? As their agents. So directors are appointing managers. What delegate their power to the management to do day-to-day activities of the company. So now the directors become principal and managers become agent. So that is how that relationship is built. As mentioned in the previous slides, the board of directors is hired by the shareholders to represent them and protect their interests. Then the board hires the CEO and other executives to manage the company and maximize shareholders' wealth. Directors themselves acting as a principals to the management and employees as the agents. Right. So that is how the director management responsibility arises. Right. Then the shareholder auditor relationship. Right. අපි වැඩිපුර කතා කරන්නේ shareholder ගේ director and the management එකයි කියන relationship එක. So these relationships are also very important. The shareholders and auditors relationship, as we discussed, the shareholder auditor relationship is another agency relationship. The shareholders are the principals, the auditors are the agents. So we are appointing the auditors to review our financial statement, or if you want to review something else. So we are appointing the auditor to look at the financials mainly and give some feedback, or we can say opinion regarding financials, whether the financial statements are safely good or bad, right? Right. Or the information are correct or wrong. Right. Provided information are correct or wrong. And agent's problem with auditors is that auditor may not be independent of a management of the companies that they audit. They become too close to the management or are afraid that management will not give them non-audit work. So this is how the agency problem arises in the shareholder auditor relationship. And now audit කරන්න ගියාට පස්සේ අර මම කිව්වා වගේ ගොඩක් ජාල වෙනවා management එකත් එක්ක. CEO CFO එක තමයි ගෙදර යන්නේ. CEO ලා ගෙදර නේ. So then, what is the expectation of the shareholders? Shareholders are expecting an independent review and independent opinion from, but you are not independent as auditor. Right? So it will arise the agent's problem. Right? It will arise the agent's problem. Right? You are in a close relationship with the management. And also the next one is you are getting the audit, but because the auditors are depending on the companies. No? The audit firms are depending on the companies. If the audit firms are not giving the engagement by the company, what will happen to the audit firm? They can't run. Like I got them, Lanka audit firms, so I got them, good partner, CFO, got them, KPFT, got them, partner, government, a company, CFO. Like. So that's what happened. Partner, CFO. Right. So then now there's a relationship is building, right? Director and the audit partner. So if they are not independent, what will happen to shareholders' expectation? They are having an agency problem. Right. So that is why according to the Companies Act, it said every 7 years you need to change the partner. Or you need to change the audit firm, that means you need to change the partner. Right. To ensure that this agency problem is solved by them. Right. They become too close to the management or are afraid that management will not give them non-audit work. Then සමහර වෙලාවට audit එක කරලා පස්සේ දැන් අපි අතට අපි දැන් audit national audit එක කරලා පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ අපිට සමහර වෙලේ engagement කරනවා. දැන් ඒගොල්ලෝ කියලා gold medal මොකද interview එකක් කියලා මම වාෂර්. ඒගොල්ලෝ industry. So ඒකට ඒගොල්ලෝ information present කරනවා. So when they are presenting that information should be audited. Auditor needs to sign this information are correct. That's a separate engagement. So those kind of engagement are coming to you because of the audit. So sometimes the auditors think that if you are giving a bad opinion about the companies, so they will not give the other ones. Right. So that arises the agency problem. Direct cost are obviously the audit fee. Right. Obviously, there's a direct cost. Right. We have to pay the auditors. In addition, there will be the time spent by management and employees dealing with the information and preparing information for the audit. So these things arise. What's the reason? The main reason is the agency problem between the shareholders and the directors. The overall someone company to auditors have how many corporate? Information. Very well, you are given them management information. Right. So you have to spend time. Right. That will create a cost to you or cost to the company. Right. The amount of audit cost is not solely determined by the shareholders, but also influenced by the professional institutes to which the auditor belongs and national and international government body. Right. So when it comes to the shareholder auditors relationship, so shareholders are the auditors are providing their job with a fee. Right. That fee is decided by not by the auditors actually. because it's given by some guidance are given by the professional institutes. Right? The monkey over here, scar government million behind, right? Commercial bank million to see a company can get it. Audit can get it. Partner they deploy. There are certain other factors out there. The level of audit, right? What kind of level you have, what kind of staff you have to engage with. Right? So we have, I can remember we have done a audit in the urine nature, that audit is a system audit. Right? That audit is a system audit. So what happens is they are having a system called analytical system is there. Kind of analog system is there. Now they are going to change it to the kind of a new system, which is having a more information and all. Right. So as I remember, it's, the previous one is AS400 system. So now they are moving to the system called EVAL. So China software, right? So now what we have to do is we need to look at whether the information in AS400 is correctly transferred to the EVAL. For example, the insurance company, the insurance market information, heart attack, medical certificate, because the public activities, the public department together, public information of they go to details. Make a local database transfer. Right. Market database transfer system transfer market database many details. The number very large transfer so what we have to do is we have to look at whether this information is correctly transferred to this new system. Right? It's very difficult task. We have to perform it within the 2 weeks of time. Right? I mean, transfer the insurance company risk transfer is transfer is then we can transfer risk. So we have only 2 weeks time. So they have allocated one floor to us. One floor. Because floor is not KPMG. KPMG again, CF is after the CF is something. Right? Yes, so we have to decide the audit fee based on that. With the situation. Right? So when you are looking at the relationship, those things also we need to look at. When you are deciding the auditor's fee, so we need to review how the auditor's fee is decided. Before going to the engagement, we need to have kind of a discussion. Right? So that is also coming under the agency problem. Some other main audit fee is someone the agency problem in the box. Audit fee and any venture. Right. So this is the relationship, another relationship in the corporates when it comes to the agency problem. The third level of relationship. But when it comes to our level, so we are basically looking at the shareholders and directors relationship. So your question is basically based on the directors, so the shareholders and the directors relationship. Right. So that's what we are looking at. Right. Other than that, these two relationships go there. Right. Right. A question. Right. So now I'm coming to the question. I just read the question. Our TY company has a board of 8 directors. So there are 8 directors are there. And 8 senior managers are responsible for different departments. So 8 directors and below them they have 10 executives or 10 top managers. Different departments in the company, including establishing appropriate internal control systems. Each senior manager provides a report to the board on a quarterly basis for explaining the performance of their department. And internal audit department monitors the internal control system and reviews the senior manager's report. The chief internal auditor then provides a separate report to the board on the work carried out by the internal audit department. Right. So require using examples from the RTY company, explain the key concept of agency theory. Right. So now you can understand, right? So I'm not asking direct questions for you. Even though we have learned what are the factors which affect to the agency problem. So I'm not asking the same. Right? So I'm asking you the example from the RTY. So you have to relate it to the RTY. Explain the key concept of agency. So I will give you 5 minutes of time so you can write an answer if you have to present the class. Just write an answer. The point form. So what is the first concept? Yes. Any volunteers? Only number. That's online, guys. Any answers from your
Yes, sir.
side? Yeah. Any others? Explain the key concepts. Any key concepts you can relate to this case study? We have done. Yes, online.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Can you give an answer to this question?
Yes. In this answer, sir, like there are 8 directors are there, so that
Yes.
they are working as a principal.
Okay.
Okay, and 10 senior managers are there. They are working as a agents.
Right. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so then there's a like internal audit department is there, and the chief internal auditor is directly reporting to senior managers. So then what they are doing is like quarterly they are submitting the reports to show that performance, to show their performance, and those performance reports are reviewed by internal audit manager. Then that reports are his reports are giving based on the accuracy of the report. He is informing to the board. So there's a transparency is there. Transparency and proper communication is there. And then when come to the agency cost, the company is investing in this all the internal controls.
Okay. Right. So yeah, just one point is correct, right? So other points are actually there. Case study, so that you have a case study. So what I need is you need to use the concept which here is the one concept we have discussed is the separation of the ownership. Right. So here, how it's given separation of ownership. So we all know if the agency problem, one reason, the main reason we are having agency problem in the corporate is the separation of the ownership. Right. Here also it happened because in this company, RTY company, they are having 8 board of directors. So that means shareholders are appointing 8 board of directors to do the management of the business. Right. And also there are senior management team also there, right, as the agent of the directors. Right. So one concept we have learned is the separation of the ownership. Right. So that we can highlight through this example. Right. That is one. The next one is the availability of the information, the level of availability of information. That's the second reason why we are having a agency problem, right? Here it says they are providing quarterly reports, right? The management is having more information than the directors, right? Can you mute, please? So the management is having more information because they are providing the quarterly report. So to provide the quarterly report, they have to analyze sort of things, information. So then the director is having a kind of a limited level of resources, the information and the management. And when it comes to shareholders, they are having a limited level of resources and directors. Right. So that is the second part. Right. Then the third one is the agency cost. Yeah. Right. Since we are having a agency problem there, right? So we have to figure the cost, that we call it as agency cost. So one way the agency cost can be incurred is the monitoring cost, because we are having an internal audit department. Right. So we are having the internal audit department and we are monitoring the activities of the management. To do that, we are having we need to incur some money for the internal audits. Right. So it's a monitoring cost, or we can say it's an agency cost. And also they can have a bonding cost. Right. Because management has to prepare the reports and present it to the board. It will take time. Right. So management has to be involved in the preparation of report. They have to analyze the data and they have to prepare the reports to the management or the board of directors. Right. It's a kind of bonding cost. The time and the effort they have involved in that sort of activity. Right. There is a bonding cost also there. Right. So likewise, the agency cost can be arise. Right. So these are the concepts we have discussed, the main concepts we have discussed. And what you have to do is you need to explain those concepts with the examples given in the case study. That is the explanation. Right. Is it clear? So we have learned the concepts. What you have to do is you need to use the concepts and play the example out of this case study and you will write those to explain that concept. Right. Clear? Is it clear? So obviously you have to start with that. Right. Here and there is a problem. Because of the conflict of interest. The reason for having the conflict of interest is we have discussed the level of information and the ownership separation. So because of these things, we have taken some agency cost. Right. So you have to construct tasks like that. So yeah, correctly mentioned, you have to start with the conflict of interest. But you are leader, there is an agency problem in this case. Right? Because the anti-body company, the management is done by the directors. The shareholders are appointing directors. So therefore, there will be a conflict of interest. Right. So why
excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, this question is asking only explain the concept of agency theory, no? Not the problem of agency theory, no?
The concept of agency, what you asking? I didn't get you.
No, sir, this question which says that explain the key concept of agency theory, but it's not emphasizing that what is the agency problem, we have to mention it, no?
No. We are not mentioning the agency problem, but we are saying that there will be a agency problem is there, right? And we are looking at the reasons for the agency problem.
Okay.
We are not telling this is the problem. Here they are not explaining about the problem. So they are not telling that this management is not dealing with their shareholders' concerns. They are having there's no concerns. So what they are normally doing, they have explained here. Some other questions on the management එක හරියට මේ වැඩේ කරන්නේ shareholders ගේ intentions මේක කියලා දෙන්නේ මේ මොකද්ද මේ company එක ඇතුලේ වෙන්නේ කියලා. So obviously they are in a conflict of interest, no? So that's the problem we are having. But here they are not explaining about the problem. What we have to do is prove the conflict of interest, what kind of theory, the theoretical concept addressing here, you need to take the example from the case study and you will write.
Okay, sir.
The intention is to explain the concept of the agency theory. Whether you have understood the concept correctly, how it's dealing with the practical component, how you are taking the practical example for the real component. Right. To explain the concept.
Okay, sir.
Theoretically, අපි දන්නවා. Ownership separation කියන එක අපි theoretically දන්නවා. මේක තමයි ownership separation. අපි කොහොමද ඒක company එක identify කරන්නේ? Agency cost කියන එක අපි theoretically දන්නවා. Agency cost කියන්නේ අපිට agency procurement නිසා අපිට incur කරන්න cost එක. ඒක කොහොමද මේක තියෙන්නේ? මේක කොතනද තියෙන්නේ? That we have to take from the case study. So if you are explaining the theoretical manner, that answer will be wrong. So let's say if you are explaining the agency cost, like they are asking to explain the key concept of agency theory. So you are like writing like this. The agency cost is the cost we are incurred because of the problem, because of the conflict of interest. Right. So I'm not giving any marks. Because what I'm asking is using the example from the argument of them. You need to explain the concept using the information given here of the general concepts. That's the requirement. Understood? Right. කටපාඩම් කරගෙන ඉන්නකොත් දැනගන්න. මේක තමයි agency cost එක කියලා කටපාඩම් කරගෙන ඒ පොතේ තියෙන කියලා. පොතේ තියෙන නෙමෙයි. agency cost එක explain කරනකොට මේ example එක. Right. Clear? Right. All right. Any questions? Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So here we are having a percent in senior managers. So we need that in senior managers, you can say the auditor will be there. He also becomes an agent. Yeah. So normally what happens is the context of the business practical level. So internal auditors are not reporting to the board. Internal auditors are not going to report to the board. So what they are doing is internal auditors are reporting to the audit committee in the board. Right. To ensure the independence as to discuss. As you explain, that independence should be there. Otherwise, if the internal auditors are going to report to the board of directors, the independence is not there. To resolve that problem, we are having in the corporate governance board, we need to have an audit committee. So when it comes to this audit committee should be consist of non-executive independent directors. More members or the most majority of the members should be non-executive independent directors. Non-executive means they are not involved in any management sort of activity. Right? So they should be non-executive independent directors. So if the internal audit department is find out any kind of a deficiency, any kind of issues, so they have to directly report to the audit committee. So after reporting the audit committee will carry that information to the board. Right? Then they will discuss in the board. That's how it's happened. They are not directly reporting to the board. That's not what happened. In PLC company, definitely you need to have audit committee. Otherwise, you can't study the Colombo stock exchange. In Sri Lanka, definitely every PLC company you need to have an audit committee on board. Right? Otherwise, you can't list. Depend on the audit committee. So audit committee, the internal audit department, the chief internal auditor should be included in senior management, but they are not reporting to the board of directors. They are reporting to the audit committee. The same thing happened in the Sri Lanka government as well. Right? What happened is there's an audit general department. Like in Sri Lanka, audit general department, legal department. So they are not coming under any ministry. Normally, if we are having a department in a government, that department should be allocated to the ministry. Department is on the ministry category. Right? So the general department is not allocated to any ministry. And they are not reported to the government. They are not reported to the Consider. They are directly reporting to the quality. Right? They are directly reporting to the quality. And they are independent. So that is how it's clearly independence. Right? Clear? Clear, doctor? ඒගොල්ලෝ agents වුණොත් එතන ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. Independence නැති වෙනවා. ඒක ඇති කරන්නේ. ඒක තමයි audit company එක දාන්නේ. Normally, some companies, the internal process will be agent, but when it comes to BSAA companies, definitely it should be omitted, right? Because independence should be there. ඒගොල්ලෝ agent වුණොත් ප්‍රශ්නයක්. Right? ඒතකොට අපි principal කියන එක කරනවා. Right? So you have to go with the principal. Board of directors want, the board of directors want, you have to perform it. Clear? Right, any questions? Any other questions? Clear? Okay. Yes, any questions? On this side? No questions? Easy, right? So now I'm having another document. Yeah. So these are some MCQs. Right. So I told you you are having quiz something basic. Right. මේ පාර quiz එකේ පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. Right. දැන් සමහර ළමයි quiz එක කරන්නේ නැහැ. කරන්නද පස්සේ මම කියනවා quiz එක කරන්න ලෝනා ක්ලෝස් එක වැඩි වුණා. අපි quiz එක දාන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ පුළුවන් කියලා. So the quiz එක කරන්න කියලා මම exclusive දෙන්න බෑ. So if you are not doing any component you can face for exam. So that's component even as I component the exam face for so this time there's a concern from our student that he done all the assignments but not the quiz. So he can't face the exam. I can't arrange a separate quiz for that individual thing. Over the camera, you cannot come in the last time. One quiz at the end of the event. Okay, so then one colleague for the first meeting was go with those of quiz at 8 week on Sunday, 8 week, Sunday, those ago. Namina, the working quiz over rare. It's a wonderful one. We have covered very quickly on our country. ඔක්කොම ඉවරලා එක්සෑම් එක සබ්ජෙක්ට් එක කොස් මට ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න බෑ. මේ මට සර් එක්සෑම් ලියන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. So කොහොමද? තවුලි නෙමෙයි. වෙන විදියට දැනෙන්න කියලා කියන අපි වෙන report එකක් අරගෙන ඉන්නවා කියලා. හැබැයි මේ පාරේ ඉන්න බෑ. ඉන්නකට බෑ. So quiz will be there is 8 week. Degree 9 days. Right. So for the quiz, I'm asking MCQ questions basically, right, from the corporate governance. So each week, after finishing of the session, I will provide you a quiz, or I will provide you a questions. So from out of these questions, some questions will be there in the office. So let us go through with these questions, right? So practice, and some questions will be there in the quiz. As well. Right. So there are, I think, 10 questions. Right. So out of these 10, I will put one or two into the quiz. Right. So practice those ones, so you can get a mark. Because the 1 point you can earn the marks is quiz. 20 marks. You can easily get it. But other than that, for the assignments and all, it's very difficult to get. And for the exam. Any questions? No? And also for the last week, I have told you about the group assignment, right? And if you can't participate in the group assignment, that means you can come to the presentation, right? Please inform me before the 1 week before the presentation if there is any of the agency. හදිස්සිය මොනවා හරි වුණොත් මේ වෙලා දවසට මම වේදි මම වෙන්න කියලා නෙමෙයි. මගේ දෘෂ්ටි වාහනයකට ගත්තොත් මේක වෙනම කතාවක්. ඒ ඇරෙන්න පාදිකට කලින් කියන්න. Right. So then I can do alternative. Otherwise, after finishing of the listen. After finishing of the presentation, there's a no exclusive. Yes, that means you can't stick to the exam. So basic info means you can't participate with the exam. Right, so you can inform through the management of the table. Right. Any questions other than that? Any questions? Yes. Right. That's a great question, right? Great question here. Asking for the giver. Right. Right. I will give the giver. So any question other than that? Other than the giver? No question. Okay. Okay, then so let's finish all the session. So let's give you next page. Thank you.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you share the link to the attendance? We missed it earlier.
Giver.
QR code.
Okay,